Ancient Egypt, a land of majestic pyramids and colossal temples, a civilization shrouded in mystery and wonder. For centuries, the secrets of the ancient Egyptians lay dormant, locked away in their intricate scripts. Like whispers from the past, these scripts tantalized explorers and scholars alike. They held the key to understanding a civilization that had vanished millennia ago. The sands of time had buried the stories, beliefs, and knowledge of the ancient Egyptians, but the discovery of these scripts sparked a quest for knowledge. It was a quest to decipher the symbols and unlock the secrets of this ancient world. The journey promised to be both challenging and rewarding. The allure of ancient Egypt lies not only in its monumental architecture, it also lies in the intricate system of writing that adorned its walls. These inscriptions, a complex tapestry of symbols and figures, were not mere decorations. They were a sophisticated system of communication, a system that evolved over centuries, reflecting the changing needs of the Egyptian civilization. The study of ancient Egyptian scripts has illuminated our understanding of this remarkable civilization. It has brought us closer to the lives of the pharaohs, priests, and ordinary people who lived along the banks of the Nile. Their stories, once lost to time, are now being pieced together. At the heart of ancient Egyptian writing lay three principal scripts: hieroglyphs, hieratic and demotic. Each script served a distinct purpose, reflecting the diverse needs of Egyptian society. Understanding these scripts is crucial to unlocking the mysteries of ancient Egyptian civilization. Hieroglyphs, meaning sacred carvings, were the most formal and elaborate script. These intricate symbols, often resembling animals, plants, or everyday objects, represented words, sounds, or concepts. Hieroglyphs adorned the walls of temples and tombs. They served as a visual testament to the power of the pharaohs and the glory of the gods. For everyday use, the Egyptians developed a cursive script known as hieratic. Hieratic, meaning priestly, was a simplified and more fluid form of hieroglyphs. It was used by scribes for administrative documents, letters, and literary texts. Hieratic played a vital role in the day-to-day functioning of the Egyptian state. As time progressed, a new script emerged called demotic. Demotic, meaning popular, was even more cursive and abstract than hieratic. It became the dominant script during the late period of ancient Egypt. Demotic appeared on contracts, legal documents, and even on pieces of pottery. It offered a glimpse into the lives of ordinary Egyptians. The act of writing in ancient Egypt was a sacred and skilled craft. Scribes, highly respected members of society, were entrusted with the task of preserving knowledge and recording history. They approached their work with meticulous care, using a variety of materials and tools. Papyrus, a paper-like material made from the papyrus plant, was the primary writing surface. The Egyptians developed a complex process for harvesting, processing, and assembling papyrus sheets into scrolls. These scrolls could be of varying lengths. Some were short, others stretched for meters, containing vast amounts of information. The scribe's toolkit consisted of a palette, 2 reed brushes, and a pot of water. The palette, usually made of wood or stone, held 2 depressions for black and red ink. Black ink, made from soot or charcoal mixed with gum, was used for the main body of the text. Red ink, derived from ochre or red lead, was used for headings, highlights, and special symbols. Writing on papyrus required a steady hand and a keen eye for detail. Scribes used the 2 reed brushes with varying thicknesses to create different stroke widths. The brushes were dipped in water and then into the ink, carefully controlling the flow of ink onto the papyrus. For centuries, the secrets of ancient Egyptian scripts remained hidden. Scholars could only marvel at the beauty of the hieroglyphs without understanding their meaning. Then in 1799, a discovery revolutionized the study of ancient Egypt: the Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone, a large slab of black granite, was unearthed by French soldiers in the Egyptian port city of Rosetta. It contained the same text inscribed in 3 different scripts: hieroglyphs, demotic, and ancient Greek. This trilingual inscription proved to be the key to deciphering the ancient Egyptian language. The discovery of the Rosetta Stone ignited a wave of excitement among scholars worldwide. Here, at last, was a tool that could unlock the secrets of the hieroglyphs. The ancient Greek inscription, a language well known to scholars, provided a translation of the Egyptian texts. The process of deciphering the hieroglyphs was long and arduous. Scholars painstakingly compared the three scripts, looking for patterns and correspondences. They realized that certain hieroglyphs enclosed in ovals, known as cartouches, represented the names of pharaohs. This breakthrough paved the way for further discoveries. The Egyptian language, like all languages, was not static. It evolved over millennia, adapting to changing social and cultural influences. Understanding this linguistic evolution is crucial to grasping the nuances of ancient Egyptian texts. The earliest known stage of the Egyptian language is Old Egyptian, spoken from the early dynastic period to the end of the Old Kingdom. Old Egyptian laid the foundation for later stages of the language. It is characterized by its complex grammar and distinctive vocabulary. As time progressed, Old Egyptian gave way to Middle Egyptian, spoken during the Middle Kingdom and Second Intermediate period. Middle Egyptian exhibited some grammatical simplifications compared to its predecessor. It became the language of classical literature and religious texts. During the New Kingdom, Late Egyptian emerged as the dominant language. Late Egyptian witnessed further grammatical changes and saw the introduction of new words. It was the language of administration, diplomacy, and everyday life. The final stage of the Egyptian language was Coptic, which emerged in the Roman period. Coptic, written using the Greek alphabet, incorporated elements of Greek vocabulary. It was primarily used by the Coptic Christian community and eventually faded out as Arabic became the dominant language of Egypt. In the hierarchy of ancient Egyptian society, scribes held a position of great respect and influence. They were the guardians of knowledge, responsible for preserving and transmitting information across generations. Their skills were essential to the functioning of the Egyptian state. Becoming a scribe was a long and arduous process. Boys from elite families began their training at a young age. They spent years memorizing hieroglyphs, mastering grammar and learning the intricacies of Egyptian literature. Scribal schools were demanding environments. Discipline was strict. Students who excelled were rewarded with prestigious positions in the royal court or temples. The role of scribes extended far beyond simply writing. They served as administrators, accountants, priests, and even architects. Their knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering was crucial for building temples, surveying land, and managing complex irrigation systems. Scribes were not merely copyists. They were also creative thinkers and storytellers. They composed hymns to the gods, love poems, and tales of adventure. Their works provide invaluable insights into the beliefs, values, and daily lives of the ancient Egyptians. The legacy of ancient Egyptian scripts is profound and enduring. The deciphering of hieroglyphs and the study of the Egyptian language have revolutionized our understanding of this ancient civilization. We can now read the words of pharaohs, explore the beliefs of priests, and delve into the lives of ordinary people. The inscriptions on temple walls and tomb paintings are no longer silent witnesses to a bygone era. They speak to us across millennia, revealing the hopes, dreams, and fears of a civilization that flourished along the banks of the Nile. We can now appreciate the artistry of their writing, the complexity of their language, and the depth of their knowledge. The study of ancient Egyptian scripts is an ongoing endeavor. New discoveries are constantly being made, shedding further light on this fascinating civilization. Each inscription deciphered, each text translated, brings us one step closer to unraveling the mysteries of ancient Egypt. Ancient Egyptian society, though often viewed through the lens of pharaohs and pyramids, was deeply rooted in the family unit. The family was the cornerstone of their civilization, providing the essential framework for social and economic stability. Family provided stability, social structure, and a sense of belonging in a world often at the mercy of the Nile's floods. The annual inundation of the Nile was both a blessing and a challenge, and families worked together to manage its impacts. This emphasis on kinship permeated all levels of society, from peasant households to royal palaces. Whether in humble villages or grand estates, the family was the primary unit of social organization. Homes, whether simple mud brick dwellings or grander structures of stone, were vibrant spaces where families lived, worked and interacted. These homes were not just shelters but centers of daily life and activity. Within these walls, daily life unfolded. Meals were prepared, children played and crafts were practiced. The rhythm of daily life was marked by the seasons and the cycles of the Nile. The household was a microcosm of Egyptian society, reflecting the hierarchical structure of the wider world. Each member had a role to play, contributing to the family's well-being and prosperity. Tomb paintings and inscriptions offer intimate glimpses into the daily routines and relationships of ancient Egyptians. These artworks reveal the importance of family ties and the affection shared among family members. Scenes of families sharing meals paint a vivid picture of the centrality of family in this ancient civilization. Meal times were not just for sustenance, but were also social occasions that reinforced family bonds and traditions. Daily life in ancient Egypt was a tapestry woven from routine tasks, religious observances, and social interactions. Men, typically responsible for agricultural labor, crafts, or trade, were the primary breadwinners. Women, while often managing the domestic sphere, actively participated in various economic activities. They engaged in tasks such as brewing beer, weaving textiles, and managing household finances. The home itself was a place of activity, with tasks often shared among family members. Children assisted with chores and learned the skills necessary for adulthood. This division of labor fostered a sense of interdependence within the family unit. The household reflected the importance of order, balance, and shared responsibility. Contrary to popular belief, ancient Egyptian women enjoyed a surprising degree of legal and economic independence. They could own property, engage in business transactions, and even represent themselves in court. Women held positions of respect within the family structure. Mothers were highly revered, and their influence was significant. While women possessed legal rights and societal respect, their lives were still shaped by gender roles within the patriarchal structure. The realities of daily life, childbirth, and societal expectations influenced their experiences. From fields to palaces, social stratification and daily life. Ancient Egyptian society was highly stratified, with a clear hierarchy influencing every aspect of life. At the apex stood the pharaoh, followed by priests, nobles, and high-ranking officials. These individuals enjoyed lives of privilege, inhabiting opulent homes and wielding considerable power. Commoners, who constituted the vast majority, led more modest lives. Despite disparities in wealth and status, shared religious beliefs and cultural practices united Egyptians across social strata. All Egyptians venerated the same gods, observed similar funerary rituals, and shared a common cultural identity. The ties that bind marriage, family, and inheritance. In ancient Egypt, the bonds of marriage, family, and inheritance were deeply intertwined, forming the bedrock of society. Marriage in ancient Egypt was primarily a social and economic contract, ensuring the continuation of the family line. These unions were meticulously documented, often involving detailed contracts that outlined the responsibilities and expectations of both parties. Marriages were often arranged to forge alliances and secure advantageous social connections. These alliances were not just personal, but also political, strengthening ties between powerful families and communities. Most marriages were monogamous, although men of high status could take secondary wives or concubines. This practice was more common among the elite, reflecting their wealth and social standing. Women had a degree of protection within marriage, with laws safeguarding their property rights and inheritance. These laws ensured that women could maintain some level of independence and security, even within a patriarchal society. Divorce was a possibility for both men and women, albeit with certain social and economic consequences. The process could be complex, often involving negotiations over property and custody of children. Children were highly valued, and families celebrated their arrival with joy. The birth of a child was seen as a blessing, and elaborate ceremonies were often held to mark the occasion. Parents doted on their children, providing them with toys, games, and affection. This nurturing environment was crucial for the child's development and future role in society. Inheritance played a crucial role, typically passing through the male line, with sons inheriting from their fathers. This ensured the continuity of the family name and the preservation of wealth and property. Daughters could inherit property, and in some cases even the throne, if there were no male heirs. This was particularly true in royal families, where the absence of a male heir could lead to a daughter ascending to power, ensuring the stability of the dynasty. Furnishing the past homes and possessions, the homes of ancient Egyptians, whether modest mud brick dwellings or grand estates, were spaces where daily life unfolded. These homes were not just shelters, but the heart of family life, where traditions and daily routines were carried out. Most homes were designed around a central courtyard, providing light and ventilation. This architectural feature was crucial in the hot climate, ensuring that the living spaces remained cool and comfortable. This open space often served as an extension of the living area where families gathered for meals and socializing. It was a place for children to play, for adults to work, and for everyone to relax and enjoy each other's company. Furniture was typically simple and functional, with wooden frames covered with woven mats for beds. These beds provided a basic yet comfortable place to rest after a day's work. Chests and boxes stored clothing and personal belongings, while pottery vessels held food and drink. These storage solutions were essential for keeping the home organized and ensuring that daily necessities were easily accessible. Wealthier homes had brightly colored paintings depicting scenes from daily life and religious rituals. These artworks added a touch of elegance and reflected the homeowner's taste and social status. These murals beautified the home and served as visual reminders of the homeowner's status and beliefs. They often depicted gods, goddesses, and significant events, reinforcing the cultural and religious values of the time. The possessions found in Egyptian homes provide valuable insights into the lifestyles and beliefs of the people who lived in them. From everyday items to decorative pieces, each object tells a story about the ancient Egyptians' way of life, their values and their aspirations. A child's world upbringing and education in the Nile Valley. Childhood in ancient Egypt was a crucial period of preparation for adulthood. Children were nurtured in environments where they were taught the skills and values essential for their future roles in society. Education was highly valued, with literacy seen as a mark of social distinction. Boys from wealthy families often received formal education at temple schools, learning to read and write hieroglyphs. Girls were educated at home in domestic skills like weaving and managing the household. Play was an integral part of childhood, with children engaging in a variety of games and activities. The transition to adulthood was marked by rituals and ceremonies, signifying readiness for marriage, family, and societal contributions. Our understanding of ancient Egyptian family life has been shaped by centuries of scholarship and archaeological discoveries. The Victorian era often projected its own values onto the past, interpreting ancient Egyptian society through a lens of patriarchy. As archaeological evidence has accumulated, our understanding of gender roles and family dynamics has become more nuanced. Legal documents, tomb inscriptions, and artistic representations depicting women in positions of authority have challenged traditional interpretations. By acknowledging the diversity of human experience, we gain a more accurate understanding of the past. Herodotus possessed a keen eye for observation and a passion for collecting stories. He sought out learned men and women, engaging them in lively discussions. He listened intently to tales whispered in marketplaces and songs sung in royal courts. He believed in the power of first-hand experience, venturing into remote regions to witness life in all its diversity. Herodotus understood that to truly comprehend the world, one had to explore its every corner. Egypt, with its ancient pyramids that have stood the test of time, towering majestically over the desert landscape, and enigmatic hieroglyphs that tell stories of gods, kings, and everyday life, held a particular allure for Herodotus. It was a land steeped in history, its origins lost to the mists of time, where every stone and ruin whispered secrets of a bygone era. Herodotus was captivated by the grandeur of its monuments, the towering statues that seemed to touch the sky, and the complexity of its civilization, a society that thrived with bustling marketplaces and intricate social structures. Herodotus immersed himself in Egyptian culture, engaging with priests, scribes, and ordinary people, learning from their daily lives and traditions. He learned about their religious beliefs, their social customs, and their understanding of the cosmos, which was deeply intertwined with their daily existence. He was fascinated by their stories of gods and pharaohs, tales of divine rulers and mythical beings, of creation and the afterlife, where elaborate burial practices ensured a journey to the next world. He recognized that Egypt offered a unique perspective on the human experience, a civilization that had mastered the art of living in harmony with the natural and supernatural worlds. Herodotus was a pioneer in the field of history, often referred to as the father of history, due to his groundbreaking work in documenting the past. However, his methods differed greatly from the rigorous standards of modern scholarship. Unlike today's historians, who rely on a combination of primary sources, archaeological evidence, and peer-reviewed research, Herodotus had to navigate a world where written records were scarce and often unreliable. He relied heavily on oral accounts, gathering stories from a wide range of sources. These included local storytellers, travelers, and merchants, each with their own version of events. Herodotus understood that history was often passed down through generations, shaped by the memories and perspectives of those who recounted it. This oral tradition was a double-edged sword. While it preserved the essence of events, it also allowed for embellishments and alterations over time. The stories he collected were like pieces of a puzzle, each one offering a glimpse into the past, but none providing a complete picture. The hieroglyphics and inscriptions he encountered were invaluable, yet they too were subject to interpretation. Herodotus recognized the subjective nature of his sources, but believed that by collecting multiple perspectives, he could approach a semblance of truth. He was aware that each account was colored by the teller's own experiences and biases. While Herodotus valued first-hand observation, he also relied on the interpretations of local guides and experts. These individuals provided him with insights that he could not have gained on his own. He understood that these guides and experts had spent their lives immersed in the culture and history of their land, making their knowledge indispensable. He consulted with Egyptian priests who possessed a deep knowledge of their history and religion. These priests were the keepers of sacred texts and oral traditions, offering Herodotus a wealth of information. He sought out Greek merchants and travelers who had spent years in Egypt, absorbing its culture. These individuals provided a unique perspective, bridging the gap between Greek and Egyptian worlds. He recognized that to fully understand a place, one had to rely on the knowledge of those who knew it best. This meant listening to the voices of the people who lived there, who had experienced its history firsthand. Herodotus's approach to history was not without its flaws. His reliance on oral accounts and second-hand information sometimes led him astray. He sometimes struggled to differentiate between fact and legend, accepting fantastical stories at face value. These tales, while captivating, often blurred the line between history and myth. He acknowledged the limitations of his own knowledge, often presenting conflicting accounts side by side. This approach allowed readers to see the diversity of perspectives, but also highlighted the uncertainties inherent in his work. However, his willingness to embrace uncertainty and to present multiple perspectives distinguished him as a historian. He was not afraid to admit when he did not know the full story, and he left room for future scholars to build upon his work. He understood that history was not simply a collection of facts, but a complex tapestry woven from memory, interpretation, and imagination. This holistic approach allowed him to capture the richness and complexity of human experience, making his work timeless and invaluable. Egypt, in the eyes of Herodotus, was a land of wonders, both familiar and strange. As he journeyed through this ancient civilization, he was struck by the unique blend of natural beauty and human ingenuity that defined the landscape. He marveled at the Nile's annual floods, which brought life to the arid land. These floods were not just a natural phenomenon, but a lifeline for the people, ensuring the fertility of the soil and the prosperity of the nation. He described the Egyptians' ingenious irrigation systems, which transformed the desert into fertile fields. These systems were a testament to their advanced engineering skills and their ability to adapt to their environment. He observed their agricultural practices, noting their cultivation of wheat, barley, and flax. These crops were not only staples of their diet, but also essential for their economy, providing materials for trade and daily life. Herodotus was impressed by the Egyptians' ability to harness the power of nature to sustain their civilization. Their agricultural techniques were sustainable and efficient, allowing them to thrive in a challenging environment. Herodotus was equally fascinated by the Egyptians' cultural practices. He witnessed their vibrant festivals, intricate rituals, and the daily routines that reflected their deep-seated beliefs and values. He described their reverence for the Nile, which they believed was the source of all life. The river was central to their religion and mythology, and they held numerous ceremonies to honor its vital role in their existence. He observed their elaborate burial rituals, including the mummification of their dead and the construction of elaborate tombs. These practices were deeply rooted in their belief in the afterlife and the importance of preserving the body for the journey beyond. He noted their fascination with astronomy, their development of a calendar based on the solar year, and their construction of massive pyramids aligned with the stars. These achievements demonstrated their advanced understanding of the cosmos and their desire to connect with the divine. Herodotus recognized the Egyptians' deep connection to their environment and their reverence for the natural world. This connection was evident in their art, architecture, and daily practices, all of which reflected a profound respect for the forces of nature. He observed their respect for animals, particularly cats, which they considered sacred. Cats were not only pets, but also symbols of protection and grace, often depicted in their art and associated with the goddess Bastet. He noted their belief in the afterlife and their elaborate preparations for the journey into the underworld. These preparations included not only mummification, but also the provision of goods, amulets, and inscriptions to guide and protect the deceased in the afterlife. Herodotus understood that the Egyptians' worldview was fundamentally different from that of the Greeks, shaped by their unique environment and their ancient traditions. This difference was reflected in their art, religion, and social structures, offering a rich tapestry of cultural diversity that fascinated and inspired him.
Ancient Egypt, a civilization renowned for its grandeur, flourished on the banks of the Nile River for over 3 millennia. The Egyptians were deeply connected to the natural world, their lives entwined with the rhythms of the sun, moon, and stars. This profound relationship is evident in their religious beliefs, social structures, and daily activities. The Egyptians observed the celestial dance of the sun and stars, recognizing their cyclical nature and the life-giving properties of the sun. They developed a complex understanding of astronomy, using it to track time, predict the Nile's floods, and align their monumental structures with celestial events. The celestial bodies, with their predictable movements, were personified as gods and goddesses. The sun, the most prominent celestial body, was revered as Ra, the creator god, who sailed across the sky each day in his solar bark. Let us journey back in time and delve into the Egyptian experience of day and night, uncovering the secrets of their celestial beliefs. As the sun began its descent in the west, a sense of tranquility descended upon ancient Egypt. The fiery orb dipped below the horizon, marking the end of the workday and ushering in the night. Unlike the bustling activity of the day, the night held a different significance for the Egyptians, a time for rest and reflection. The Egyptians believed that the night was a time when malevolent spirits roamed freely. To ward off these unseen forces, they performed protective rituals, seeking the guidance and protection of their gods. The night sky, a breathtaking tapestry of twinkling stars, held a particular fascination for the Egyptians. Astronomers, priests with specialized knowledge of the heavens, played a crucial role in Egyptian society. The night was not just a time for rest, but also a time for connecting with the divine. The Nile, the lifeblood of ancient Egypt, played a pivotal role in shaping the Egyptian perception of time and the cosmos. Its annual floods, predictable yet awe-inspiring, were the heartbeat of Egyptian civilization. The Egyptians observed that the Nile's inundation coincided with the rising of Sirius, the dog star, in the eastern sky just before dawn. The Egyptians developed a sophisticated calendar based on the solar year, dividing it into 3 seasons: Akhet, inundation; Peret, growing; and Shemu, harvest. The Nile's rhythmic cycle of flood and recession mirrored the cyclical nature of day and night. The Nile, in essence, embodied the cyclical nature of time and the Egyptian belief in the enduring power of the cosmos. The Egyptians were meticulous timekeepers, their lives governed by the celestial rhythms of the sun, moon, and stars. They developed sophisticated methods for measuring time, dividing the day and night into equal segments and creating calendars that aligned with the solar year and the Nile's floods. To measure time during the day, the Egyptians used sundials, simple yet effective devices that tracked the sun's movement across the sky. At night, they relied on water clocks, ingenious devices that measured time based on the steady flow of water from a vessel with a small hole. The Egyptians developed 2 main calendars: a lunar calendar based on the cycles of the moon, and a solar calendar based on the sun's journey around the earth. Accurate timekeeping was essential for religious practices, as temples throughout Egypt adhered to strict schedules for daily rituals and offerings. Time for the Egyptians was not linear but cyclical, intricately linked to the movements of celestial bodies. Death, for the ancient Egyptians, was not an end, but a transition to another realm, the afterlife. Just as the sun journeyed through the underworld each night, so too did the deceased embark on a perilous journey through the underworld. The Egyptians envisioned the underworld as a subterranean world, shrouded in darkness and ruled by Osiris, the god of the dead. The deceased's journey through this shadowy realm was fraught with danger, requiring them to navigate treacherous paths and prove their worthiness to Osiris. Tombs were elaborately furnished with food, clothing, tools, and weapons to accompany the deceased on their journey. The afterlife, therefore, was not a perpetual night, but a realm of both darkness and light, where the deceased faced challenges and rewards. The Egyptian pantheon was populated with a myriad of gods and goddesses, each embodying forces of nature or aspects of human experience. Among these deities, Ra, the sun god, and Nut, the sky goddess, played pivotal roles in the Egyptian perception of day and night. Ra, often depicted as a man with a falcon's head crowned with a solar disk, was the supreme deity in the Egyptian pantheon. Each day, Ra sailed across the sky in his solar bark, bringing light and order to the land. At sunset, he journeyed through the underworld, battling chaotic forces before emerging triumphant each morning in the east. Nut, the sky goddess, was often depicted as a woman arched over the earth, her body adorned with stars. She was the mother of Ra, swallowing him each evening as he descended in the west, and giving birth to him anew each morning in the east. The eternal dance of Ra and Nut symbolized the enduring power of creation and the cyclical nature of existence. Temples, grand and awe-inspiring structures dedicated to the Egyptian gods and goddesses, were not merely places of worship, they were microcosms of the universe. These sacred spaces were intricately aligned with celestial events, their architecture and decoration echoing the celestial realm above. The entrance pylon, flanked by towering obelisks, symbolized the gateway to the celestial realm. The hypostyle hall, with its forest of columns, represented the primeval waters of Nun, from which creation emerged. The sanctuary, the most sacred part of the temple, housed the cult statue of the temple's deity. Temples were also aligned with significant astronomical events, such as solstices and equinoxes. The decoration of temples further emphasized their celestial connections. The ancient Egyptians possessed a profound understanding of astronomy, using their knowledge to align their monumental structures with celestial events. Pyramids, the most iconic of all Egyptian monuments, were not randomly placed, but carefully oriented to the cardinal directions. The four sides of the Great Pyramid of Giza, for instance, are aligned almost perfectly with north, south, east, and west. Temples were also aligned with significant astronomical events, such as solstices and equinoxes. The Egyptians believed that aligning their structures with celestial events imbued them with cosmic power and ensured their stability and longevity. These alignments were powerful expressions of the Egyptian worldview, reflecting their deep reverence for the cosmos. The ancient Egyptians lived in a world deeply intertwined with the rhythms of nature, their lives governed by the cyclical dance of day and night. Their perception of these cycles was not merely functional, but deeply spiritual. Their meticulous timekeeping practices, their alignment of monuments with celestial events, and their elaborate funerary rituals all point to a civilization deeply aware of its place in the grand scheme of the cosmos. The Egyptian fascination with day and night, with the cyclical nature of time and the eternal dance of celestial bodies, continues to captivate us today. The Egyptians, in essence, left behind an enduring legacy, reminding us of the power of observation and the timeless allure of the cosmos.
Have you ever wondered how the sands of time have shifted under the influence of different civilizations? Such is the curious case of the Romans and their impact on ancient Egypt. Egypt, the cradle of civilization, with its pyramids and pharaohs, has always held an allure for history enthusiasts. But like a prism refracting light, Egypt's history is multifaceted, with one of its most intriguing aspects being the influence of the Roman civilization. The Romans, renowned for their mastery in governance and engineering, set foot in Egypt around the 1st century BC. A land already steeped in rich history, Egypt was a jewel that many sought but few could claim. For the Romans, it was an opportunity to expand their empire, and for Egypt, it was the dawn of a new era. Over the course of our exploration, we will navigate through the corridors of time to shed light on the Roman conquest, the blending of cultures under Roman rule, the marvels of Roman engineering, and their enduring legacy in Egypt. Imagine, if you will, the bustling city of Cyrene, a vibrant testament to Roman architectural prowess, thriving under the desert sun. Picture the grandeur of Roman forts, their imposing structures a beacon of Roman might amidst Egypt's ancient landscape. But this influence was not confined to bricks and mortar. The Romans, with their nuanced governance, were architects of society too. They built bridges, not just of stone, but of culture, intertwining their own with that of the Egyptians, creating a rich tapestry woven with threads of both Roman and Egyptian heritage. And let's not forget the marvels of Roman engineering. Aqueducts snaking through the landscape, an ingenious solution to the desert's harsh climate. Their testament to the Romans' ingenuity still stands today, echoing tales of a civilization far advanced for its time. As we delve deeper into this intriguing history, we will uncover the profound impact of the Roman civilization on ancient Egypt, a tale of conquest, cultural fusion, architectural genius, and an enduring legacy that has stood the test of time. This is the unseen influence of the Romans on ancient Egypt. The Romans, a civilization known for its military prowess and strategic acumen, set their sights on Egypt around 30 BC. The allure of Egypt's vast resources and strategic location was too enticing to ignore. After all, Egypt was a jewel in the crown of the Mediterranean with its fertile river valleys, abundant grain, and access to the Red Sea trade routes. The conquest of Egypt was not just about territorial expansion for the Romans, it was a strategic move, a testament to their foresight. Egypt was not just another province, it was the breadbasket of the Roman Empire. The fertile lands along the Nile River provided a steady supply of grain, ensuring that Rome never went hungry. Furthermore, the wealth of Egypt, particularly its gold, added significantly to the coffers of the Roman Empire, fueling its economic prosperity. But the Romans weren't merely conquerors, they were also assimilators. They recognized the importance of Egypt's rich culture and history. Instead of imposing their culture wholesale on the Egyptians, they chose to integrate, absorbing elements of Egyptian culture into their own. This approach allowed them to win over the hearts and minds of the Egyptian people, making their rule more palatable. The conquest of Egypt marked the beginning of Roman influence in the region. The Romans established their presence with the construction of forts and cities, including the city of Cyrene, which became a hub of Roman culture and commerce in North Africa. These settlements served not only as military outposts, but also as symbols of Roman power and civilization. The Roman conquest also marked a significant shift in Egypt's history. The Pharaonic era had ended, and the Roman era had begun. It was a period of change and adaptation, as two of the ancient world's most renowned civilizations became inexorably intertwined. With the conquest complete, the stage was set for a Roman era in Egypt's history. The Romans had arrived, and they were here to stay. Their influence would permeate every aspect of Egyptian life, from its culture to its architecture, leaving an indelible mark on the land of the pharaohs. Under Roman rule, Egypt experienced a fusion of cultures that shaped its future. The Roman conquest of Egypt in 30 BC was not just a political takeover, but a significant cultural merger that forever altered the course of Egyptian history. This period was marked by a fascinating blend of Roman and Egyptian cultures, creating a unique societal tapestry that still resonates today. The Romans, renowned for their administrative efficiency, brought about significant societal changes. They introduced their language Latin, but also allowed the use of Greek and Egyptian, acknowledging the importance of cultural diversity. This linguistic coexistence is a testament to the Romans' pragmatic approach, allowing for smoother administration and better communication with the locals. In the realm of religion, the Romans displayed remarkable adaptability. They embraced Egyptian gods, incorporating them into their pantheon, thus creating a hybrid religious system. The Roman emperor, seen as a divine entity in Rome, was also portrayed as a pharaoh in Egyptian contexts, further exemplifying this cultural synthesis. The Romans also respected and adopted the Egyptian tradition of mummification, a practice associated with the journey to the afterlife. This adoption illustrates the Romans' willingness to integrate local customs into their own, a strategy that undoubtedly helped in maintaining peace and stability. Politically, the Romans recognized the value of the existing Egyptian administrative structures and, rather than dismantling them, chose to adapt and build upon them. While the Romans brought their own laws and governance style, they also incorporated Egyptian legal traditions, creating a blended system that was both effective and accepted by the locals. Under Roman rule, Egypt became a melting pot of cultures, a place where Roman and Egyptian traditions coexisted and even merged. The Romans' pragmatic approach to ruling, their willingness to adapt, and their respect for the existing culture resulted in a unique societal blend, a fusion that enriched both societies. The Roman rule had firmly woven itself into the fabric of Egyptian society, leaving an indelible mark. The Romans were renowned for their engineering prowess, and Egypt was no exception to their architectural marvels. When we delve into the annals of history, we find that Roman engineering left an indelible mark on the landscape of Egypt. This influence is evident in the remarkable structures that withstood the test of time, echoing the grandeur of Rome even in the heart of the desert. One of the most fascinating examples of Roman engineering in Egypt is the aqueducts. These ingenious structures were designed to transport water from the Nile to the arid regions of the country. The Romans applied their knowledge of hydraulics to master the art of moving water across great distances, using gravity as their ally. They built aqueducts with such precision that even after 2,000 years, some of these structures remain functional. Just as impressive are the Roman bridges scattered across Egypt. These bridges were not just feats of engineering, they were strategically placed to facilitate trade and communication. The Romans harnessed the power of arches, a design still used in modern bridges, to create sturdy, reliable structures that could bear the weight of heavy traffic. But the epitome of Roman influence in Egypt can be seen in the city of Cyrene. Nestled in the Libyan desert, Cyrene was once a vibrant Roman city, brimming with grand architecture. The city was a fusion of Egyptian and Roman cultures, reflected in its many monuments. The Romans adorned Cyrene with a grand amphitheatre, a testament to their love for the arts, and bathhouses that showcased their innovative heating systems. The city was also home to the Temple of Zeus, a colossal structure that rivaled the Parthenon in Athens. This temple, built in the Corinthian style, with its fluted columns and ornate friezes, is a testament to the architectural prowess of the Romans. The Roman engineering marvels in Egypt were not just structures of stone and mortar. They were symbols of the empire's might, the physical embodiment of their knowledge and creativity. Even today, these structures inspire awe and admiration, reminding us of a time when Rome's influence stretched across the known world. These architectural wonders stand as a testament to the Roman influence that pervaded Egypt. Even as empires rise and fall, their legacies continue to echo through the ages. The Roman Empire was no exception. Its influence on ancient Egypt was profound, and its imprint can still be seen today. The Romans, with their superior military tactics and engineering prowess, built numerous forts across Egypt. These forts served not just as defensive structures, but also as important trade and administrative centers. One could say that these forts were the backbone of Roman rule in Egypt, facilitating control over the vast desert landscapes and the bustling Nile River. But the Romans didn't just bring their military might to Egypt, they brought their culture too. The Romans, being pragmatic as they were, did not seek to erase the existing Egyptian culture, but rather chose to integrate it with their own. This integration led to a fascinating blend of Roman and Egyptian cultural elements, visible in the architecture, art, and even religious practices of the time. The city of Cyrene stands as a testament to this blend of cultures, with its Roman-styled buildings adorned with Egyptian symbols and motifs. The Roman influence also extended to the governance of Egypt. The Romans introduced a more centralized administrative system which proved to be more efficient than the previous structures. This system not only helped the Romans maintain control over Egypt, but also paved the way for future administrative practices. Finally, the Romans introduced new agricultural techniques and crops that boosted Egypt's economy. They also improved the existing irrigation systems, ensuring a more reliable water supply for the agricultural lands. These advancements in agriculture had a lasting impact, securing Egypt's position as a breadbasket of the Mediterranean even after the fall of the Roman Empire. The Roman influence in Egypt was not just a chapter in history, but a saga that continues to resonate. The Roman legacy in Egypt is a story of cultural integration, administrative efficiency, and agricultural advancement. It's a story that serves as a reminder of how empires, even in their fall, continue to shape the world in unexpected ways. The sands of the Egyptian desert hold stories of times when the might of Rome shaped its destiny. We've journeyed through epochs, traversed the timeline of the Roman conquest and rule, and marveled at the engineering feats that stood as testaments to Roman ingenuity. We've explored the harmonious blend of cultures that resulted from the Roman reign in Egypt, and how their legacy still lingers in the windswept landscapes of this ancient land. As we traced the footsteps of Roman soldiers along the Nile, we discovered the profound effects of Roman architecture and engineering. The aqueducts, the bridges, the forts, all silent witnesses to a time when Rome's influence was stamped onto Egyptian soil. They echo the genius of a civilization that was far ahead of its time, a civilization that left an indelible mark on the world. We ventured into the city of Cyrene, a page from history that encapsulates the Roman-Egyptian cultural fusion. A city that bears witness to the Roman administrative acumen and a testament to the peaceful coexistence of two great civilizations under the Roman rule. The Roman era was not merely a period of conquest and rule, it was an era of influence that sowed the seeds of progress and cultural evolution. The Roman legacy in Egypt is not confined to the remnants of their architectural marvels. It is imbued in the ethos of the land, subtly influencing its course of development. Understanding this Roman influence is akin to piecing together a grand puzzle, a puzzle that reveals the vibrant tapestry of Egyptian history. It helps us comprehend how the past has shaped the present and how it will continue to shape the future. In conclusion, the Roman era was a pivotal chapter in the history of ancient Egypt. It was a time of change, of growth, and of cultural amalgamation. It was an era that left an enduring imprint on the sands of time. As we walk on the sands of Egypt, we tread on layers of history, each telling a tale of civilizations, their rise, their fall, and their enduring influence. Have you ever wondered how a day in the life of an ancient Egyptian unfolded? As dawn's first light brushed across the horizon, ancient Egyptian households stirred into activity. The day started early, long before the punishing heat of the desert sun could make work unbearable. Family members roused themselves from their simple beds, often nothing more than a mat on the floor, and began their day with the rising sun, a testament to their resilience and tenacity. The morning air would fill with the scent of baking bread, a staple in the Egyptian diet, made from emmer wheat or barley. This humble loaf, often accompanied by a jug of beer, formed the backbone of their breakfast. The beer, contrary to modern perceptions, was a nutritious brew, low in alcohol and high in vital nutrients. Bread and beer, in their simplicity, provided sustenance and energy for the day's activities. Meanwhile, the household chores were set in motion. Floors were swept, homes tidied, and animals attended to. These tasks were shared among the family members, each contributing to the smooth running of the household. Despite the simplicity of their dwellings, cleanliness was of utmost importance, a reflection of their spiritual beliefs and their reverence for Ma'at, the ancient Egyptian concept of truth, balance, order, harmony, law, morality, and justice. As the morning chores were completed, the children, seen as blessings from the gods, were prepared for their day. Many would accompany their parents to learn the family trade, while others, particularly those from wealthier families, would receive education, a privilege that was not universally accessible. The morning bustle, a symphony of activity, was a testament to the industriousness of the ancient Egyptians. Their day-to-day life was a delicate balance of work and family, a dance choreographed to the rhythm of the rising and setting sun. Their homes, whether grand mansions of the wealthy or humble mud-brick dwellings of the commoners, were centers of love, life, and productivity. As the morning chores were done, ancient Egyptians prepared for the day ahead. As the sun rose higher, the day's work began in earnest. The ancient Egyptians embarked on a myriad of activities that formed the backbone of their society. From weaving and professional mourning to serving in the households of the affluent, the Egyptians were a diligent people. Intriguingly, both men and women partook in these activities, a testament to the equality that was a cornerstone of their society. In the pre-Greco-Roman culture, Egyptian women were not mere bystanders. They owned property, testified in court, and could even inherit. A woman could step into her deceased husband's trade, an opportunity that was restricted when the Greeks and Romans arrived. The marriage contracts of the time also bore witness to this equality, often including mentions of allowances and items of value brought into the marriage by the woman, which forever remained hers. The social structure, however, did play a role in determining the opportunities available to an individual. The higher their status, the easier it was to obtain education and access different professions. But regardless of their social standing, every Egyptian had a role to play, a task to execute. This society was not just about work, there was also time for leisure. When the tasks of the day were done, Egyptians would engage in games and music, a welcome respite from the rigors of their daily chores. Children were considered a blessing from the gods, and their laughter and playfulness added a sense of liveliness to the otherwise industrious Egyptian lifestyle. The ancient Egyptians were a people of balance. They understood the importance of work, but also the value of relaxation and family. They built their homes with care, whether it was a commoner's house made from sun-baked mud bricks or a wealthy mansion decorated luxuriously. They believed in equality, and this belief was reflected in their society. As the sun began to set, the ancient Egyptians wrapped up their day's work and returned home. They had fulfilled their roles, carried out their tasks, and now it was time to retreat to the comfort of their homes, to their families, and to rest, ready to repeat the cycle the next day. With the setting sun, the ancient Egyptians retreated to the comfort of their homes. The hustle and bustle of the day's activities subsided, ushering in a time of quiet contemplation and familial bonding. You see, evenings in an ancient Egyptian household were not just about rest, but about strengthening the ties that bound them together. As dusk fell, the families would gather for dinner. But unlike our modern-day practice of congregating around one large table, each individual had a small table of their own. Meals were simple, yet nourishing, often consisting of bread, vegetables, and sometimes fish or meat. This practice of individual tables wasn't a sign of disconnectedness, but rather a custom unique to their culture. The importance of family in their society cannot be overemphasized. The father, mother, and children were the nucleus of the family, but their household often extended to include mothers-in-law, sisters, aunts, and sisters-in-law. The evening meal was a time for them to come together, share the day's experiences, and perhaps indulge in light-hearted banter. It was a time of unity and connection, a time to reinforce the bonds of love and respect that held them together. Children, considered a blessing from the gods, filled these homes with laughter and joy. They were doted upon, their every need attended to with love and care. And as the evening wore on, stories would be shared, tales of valor, of gods and goddesses, of the mighty Nile, instilling in the young ones a sense of pride and belonging to this ancient civilization. The evening was also a time for personal grooming and hygiene. They would clean themselves with natron, a type of salt, and oil their bodies. Hair was combed, clothes were changed, and the day's dust was washed away, preparing them for the tranquility of the night. As night fell, the ancient Egyptians retreated to their bedrooms, preparing to start the cycle all over again the next day. They would sleep on beds raised from the ground, their dreams filled with the promise of another day in the life of an ancient Egyptian. So, how was a day in the life of an ancient Egyptian? Well, it started at dawn with the daily routines in the household, each member contributing to the smooth running of the family unit. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the day was filled with various activities. Some engaged in the family trade, while others served in the houses of the rich or pursued professions unique to their gender. In the evening, the home transformed into a hub of social interactions. The ceremonial room buzzed with guests while the family members gathered around their individual tables for dinner. Despite the absence of surnames, the family tree was etched in stone, quite literally on funeral stones, to ensure the deceased were remembered. The day ended in the intimate confines of the bedroom or kitchen, the heart of the home. It's fascinating to think about how much we share with the ancient Egyptians, despite the thousands of years that separate us. Their day-to-day life was filled with activities not too dissimilar from ours, making them not so distant after all. Did you know that beer and bread were not just food items, but also a form of currency in ancient Egypt? While it was the Mesopotamians who first invented beer, even developing the ingenious use of a straw to sidestep the pesky sediments and herbs, it was the ancient Egyptians who truly mastered the art of brewing. The quality of Egyptian beer was judged by its color, its flavor, and of course, its alcohol strength. Beer was more than just a beverage to the ancient Egyptians. During the Pharaonic era, it became the most commonly used alcoholic drink, and its importance was unparalleled. It was consumed daily by both adults and children, and it was even included in medical texts as a key ingredient hundreds remedies. The state and temples used beer as a form of payment to their workers. It was also offered up as food to the gods and the deceased. This humble brew was the drink of choice at ceremonies and festivals, and there was even a particular festival aptly named the Festival of Drunkenness, devoted entirely to it. Beer was not the only product the Egyptians were skilled at creating. Bakers and brewers often worked side by side in the same workshop or house, with bread being another staple in the Egyptian diet. The most basic recipe involved using malted cereal as the primary ingredient, with fruits such as dates, honey and spices added for flavor. Once baked, the bread would be crumbled into the brew to kickstart the fermentation process, creating a thick, mash-like substance. The process was a testament to the Egyptians' resourcefulness. Very little was wasted. Leftover grains were put to good use, either being reused to make sourdough bread or incorporated into the next batch in the Pharaonic era. Beer and bread evolved from mere sustenance to become the most commonly used and significant commodity. Imagine receiving your salary in the form of beer and bread. Sounds unusual, right? But that was the reality during the Pharaonic era in ancient Egypt. Beer and bread, more than just staples of the Egyptian diet, were the currency of the land. The state and temples used these commodities as payment to workers, from the builders of the Great Pyramids to the farmers tilling the fertile Nile riverbanks. But it didn't stop at wages. Beer and bread also held a sacred place in Egyptian society. They were routinely included in offerings to the gods and the deceased. It was believed that these offerings would provide for the needs of the departed in the afterlife. In fact, the hieroglyphic symbol for meal was a loaf of bread and a jar of beer. Festivals and ceremonies too were incomplete without these two essentials. One such occasion was the Festival of Drunkenness, a unique celebration dedicated entirely to beer. This festival commemorated the myth of Sekhmet, the lioness-headed goddess who almost wiped out humanity but was pacified by beer. Egyptians would drink to the point of oblivion, believing that in their intoxicated state they could connect with the divine. Beer was not just a recreational drink. It was considered to be quite nutritious and was a significant part of the everyday lives of ancient Egyptians. It was consumed with all meals by adults and children alike. Its importance is further underscored by its prominence in medical texts, where hundreds of remedies contained beer as a key ingredient. As for bread, it was more than a side dish. It was a symbol of life and fertility, and its production was associated with the god Osiris, who was believed to have taught Egyptians the art of agriculture. So, while we might not find the idea of being paid in beer and bread appealing today, for the ancient Egyptians, these were not just food items. They were an integral part of their life, culture, and economy. Indeed, beer and bread were not just food items, they were the lifeblood of ancient Egypt's economy and culture. Beer for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that was a typical day for an ancient Egyptian. Beer wasn't just an indulgence for them, it was a dietary staple consumed by adults and children alike. It was as common as water, and arguably safer to drink considering the purification process involved in brewing. Now, it might sound strange to us, but the beer of ancient Egypt was very different from what we're used to today. It was a nutritious, hearty brew that was more like a liquid bread. It was thick, often consumed with a straw to bypass the chunky sediments, and contained proteins, vitamins, and even antibiotic properties. Yes, you heard that right. This beer could help fight off diseases, an added bonus in a time before modern medicine. In fact, beer was so significant in the day-to-day lives of ancient Egyptians that it even found its way into their medical practices. Hundreds of remedies from that era include beer as a key ingredient. It was used to treat everything from digestive issues to wounds, making it an essential part of their health regimen. And it wasn't just beer that held a crucial place in their diet. Bread, too, was a staple food made from barley or emmer wheat. It was often enriched with additional ingredients like fruits, nuts, honey, and spices, providing a wide range of nutrients. The process of baking bread and brewing beer were closely linked, often happening in the same workshop or household. The leftover grains from brewing were reused to make sourdough bread, ensuring that nothing went to waste. This circular process not only maximized resources, but also created a symbiotic relationship between the two essential food items. Now, keep in mind, this was not a diet born out of indulgence, but out of necessity. In a harsh desert environment where fresh produce was limited, beer and bread provided the necessary calories and nutrients to sustain life. So, for ancient Egyptians, beer was not just a drink, it was a vital part of their diet and health regimen. And bread wasn't just a side dish, but a life-sustaining necessity. Their importance in the daily life of ancient Egyptians was paramount, a testament to human ingenuity in turning simple grains into nourishing sustenance. The ancient Egyptians were not just pyramid builders, they were master brewers and bakers too. Their craft was a delicate dance of ingredients and steps, an art form that took skill and care to perfect. The most basic recipe for their beer began with malted cereal. This humble grain was the starting point, the canvas upon which the Egyptians would create their masterpiece. To this they added dates, a sweet, sticky fruit that lent flavor and body to the brew. Honey was another addition, bringing its own unique sweetness and depth. Spices too were included, their aromatic notes dancing amidst the other flavors, adding complexity and intrigue. And then there was bread. Not just any bread, but bread that was freshly baked and crumbled into the brew, a catalyst to start the all-important fermentation process. Adding grain enzymes to the mix, the Egyptians were able to break down the starches in the bread and malt, turning them into sugars. This created a thick mash, a soupy mixture that was the precursor to the final beer. Once ready, this bread and grain mixture was compressed, strained through a sieve with water, and added to the mix of malt beer. This beer mash was then transferred to large containers and compressed again, either by foot or with pestles. This process smoothed out the mixture, readying it for the final steps. Once smooth, the beer was stored in pottery jars, sealed with a clay stopper to keep it fresh. Its shelf life was limited, and it likely had a thick, pasty appearance and texture. But in ancient Egypt, nothing was wasted. The leftover grains from the brewing process were reused either to make sourdough bread or to be combined with the next batch of beer. This cycle of brewing and baking, of creation and reuse, was a testament to the Egyptians' resourcefulness and ingenuity. Despite the passage of time, the brewing and baking techniques of the ancient Egyptians remain an awe-inspiring testament to their ingenuity. As the sands of time shifted, so did the quality and significance of beer and bread in ancient Egypt. Take a moment to consider the humble grain of wheat. In its raw form, it may not seem like much, but when transformed by the hands of skilled bakers and brewers, it became the lifeblood of a civilization. The introduction of durum wheat, a hard variety of wheat with a high protein content, brought about a significant improvement in the quality of bread. This allowed the upper and middle classes to enjoy a more refined taste. However, the story was different for the poor. Their diet was often a simple gruel made of vegetables, softened bread or barley. Despite the advances in bread making, the disparity between the classes was evident even in their meals. Interestingly, the way food was prepared also evolved. Until the Middle Kingdom, food was prepared on the floor. Can you imagine kneading dough or brewing beer in the dust? But innovation came in the form of cooking benches. These raised platforms provided a cleaner, more efficient space for preparing meals and must have been a welcome change for the bakers and brewers of the time. In the world of brewing, the techniques remained largely the same, but the recipes evolved. Brewers began experimenting with different ingredients, adding fruits, nuts and spices to their brews. This not only enhanced the flavor of the beer, but also provided additional nutrients, further cementing beer's place as a vital part of the Egyptian diet. Just as the pyramids stand as a testament to the architectural prowess of the ancient Egyptians, the evolution of beer and bread serves as a testament to their culinary innovation. This is a story of a society that valued both necessity and pleasure, creating a balance that was reflected in their food and drink. From humble beginnings to significant commodities, the journey of beer and bread in ancient Egypt is a fascinating tale of evolution and adaptation.